Is there a totally free background check option online? That's the question we're going to answer in this video. And to get started, I recommend heading down to sheriffsdepartment.net. I'll drop a link in the description, or you can just type that into your browser. And what we have here are state resources, and a lot of these states will offer totally free background check options for you. They might not be like an all-in-one type of a search. You might have to do a little bit of homework. You might have to look at different databases to get it completely done for free. So for this example, I'm going to just go ahead and use the state of Arizona. Most states are going to offer very similar options. Some states are going to be a little bit more difficult to work with. Just a heads up there. So let's go ahead and go to Arizona. Well, we have an option for you to do an instant scan on anybody. This is a nationwide check, statewide check, and a nationwide check on top of that. So you're able to actually determine sometimes which locations the persons might have lived in the past in. So if you are doing, say, if you're looking at Arizona specific or California or Florida specific records, if the person has lived in another state or maybe traveled and has a paperwork trail somewhere else, typically the state resources are only covering what happened within that state or within that county. Most common record types when it comes to a background check are going to be court records, criminal records, depending on a background check, driving records, motor vehicle records. You can also look up if a person owns like an LLC or a business, prison records, and then of course the sex offender records. If the statewide check doesn't offer enough, or maybe you need to dig a little bit deeper, you can also try at the county level. We cover the most populous counties in each state, so you'll have an option to do court records. You can check mugshots, property records, things like that. So you can get a pretty good. You can gather a lot of information for free, totally free, just by using these resources. Let's look at the most sought after record when it comes to background checks, and that would be the criminal record. And so for Arizona, the Arizona Department of Public Safety has a page. Sometimes they will make it easy, and sometimes they will require the person that you're doing the background check on, they will require them to sign the form. So it just depends if it's for employment. If you're trying to look up a date or a nanny, you might not want to necessarily go through all the paperwork that is required, but it depends on the situation and what the background check is for. So in this case, they do have special forms that need to be submitted. If you're doing a background check on yourself, some states offer it's like a self-check type of a background check, and in most cases it's totally free to do, and all you got to do is just fill out a record review packet like with Arizona here, and it does take a little bit of time to get this back to you, but they will provide instructions on how to get this done. So a lot of times a self-check through the state it's possible to do it for free. So that's one thing. Now, if you can't do the official criminal history check through the state, you can also look at court records. Now, you can find court records just by Googling your state court records, and in this case I did Arizona, and you're able to pull up all sorts of links here. If something ends like with like a .gov, it's gonna be a government website, so you know for sure it's the real deal. You're still gonna have the .orgs and the .nets out there, so just look very carefully if you do want the official stuff. Read the fine print. And let me see. So court records. I just want to make a quick note here. When you're looking at court records, a lot of times these types of searches can be done for free. and they are involved in background checks, depending on what the background check is done for. So I'm going to go ahead, and we have a court record specific page with all the resources, and it actually breaks down how the court system works in every state. So if you find one database for court records, don't necessarily assume that that's the only one. I have a little visual representation here, and this is just for Arizona here, and you have multiple courts. You have the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, Superior Court, Tax Court, Justice of Peace, and then you have your city courts. And so depending on what type of record you're looking for, you want to make sure you're researching the appropriate database. So if you want traffic records, you want the municipal court. Justice of Peace is going to have your lesser crimes, your small claims, your evictions. Superior Court is going to cover more serious criminal acts, probate, evictions, estate, tax. We'll cover tax records, and Court of Appeals is pretty much, that's where everything gets appealed. So if they can't settle in the smaller courts, it gets sent to the top level courts to get a final decision in the matter. So let me get on top of the page here. Okay, so and we provide a link for each of these courts. So a lot of times these are going to be for free. If you want, they're not necessarily always going to give you the most details. At times you'll have to request the official court record if you really want to see what's going on, and you might need to stop by in person. They have special terminals. A lot of courts, Court of Clerks offices, they'll have public terminals, and a lot of times these are going to be free. And a lot of times they also give you online access, and so we let you know if you got to go through the terminal or if they have online access, or you could do both. Just depends on what you're trying to do. So we have researched every single state, and court records is a way to go on finding out civil records, criminal records. It all goes through the court. So you're able to look up things for free a lot of times using these databases. You also want to check on things like the Department of Corrections. This is totally free. When it comes to background checking, these are prison records, and you can again use sheriffsdepartment.net. Look, we have the official link there, or just Google Arizona DOC, Department of Corrections. You want to check the sex offender records. Every state has a statewide database, and then you have a lot of sheriff's offices or police departments that will have their own databases that can also be viewed for free. So that's about it. I recommend just heading down to the website, sheriffsdepartment.net. We have a ton of totally free background check resources for you. I'll go ahead and drop a link in the description. Thanks for listening.